The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of Gate C-17 at Denver International Airport. Flight 2187 to Chicago was already running 30 minutes behind schedule, and the growing line of passengers showed clear signs of impatience. Soft groans and shuffling feet created a soundtrack of frustration that flight attendant Lily Wong knew all too well. Lily tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear and took a deep breath. This was her third consecutive red-eye shift this week, and the fatigue had settled deep in her bones. The bags under her eyes told the story of too many early mornings and late nights, of meals eaten standing up and of sleep that never quite seemed to be enough. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're now ready to begin boarding Flight 2187 to Chicago," she announced into the microphone, forcing a cheerfulness into her voice that she didn't feel. "We'll start with our premium passengers, those needing special assistance, and families with small children." The usual rush began as people jostled for position, despite her clear instructions about the boarding order. Lily exchanged a knowing glance with her colleague Tanya, who was checking boarding passes at the gate. It was going to be one of those flights. As the initial group made their way down the jet bridge, Lily's phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at it quickly, a message from her mom asking if she'd heard back about her test results yet. Lily's stomach tightened. She hadn't meant to worry her mother, but the doctor had found something concerning during her routine physical last week. The follow-up appointment wasn't until tomorrow, but the uncertainty had been gnawing at her for days. Not now, she thought, silencing her phone. She needed to focus. By the time Lily boarded the plane herself, the initial wave of passengers was creating the familiar bottleneck in the aisle. Carry-on bags were being forced into overhead bins. Children were whining about window seats, and the temperature inside the cabin was rising along with everyone's tempers. "Keep it moving. Please," Lily called out, her professional smile firmly in place. "We're trying to make up for lost time. That's..." When she noticed the holdup near row 14, an elderly man with wispy white hair and a cardigan that seemed too heavy for the season was struggling with his carry-on bag. His movements were slow and deliberate as he tried to hoist the bag above his head, but his arms trembled with the effort. Several passengers behind him were showing signs of frustration, checking watches, sighing loudly, peering around to see what was causing the delay. One businessman in a crisp suit made a show of looking at his expensive watch and then up at the ceiling, as if the gesture might somehow speed things along. Lily made her way forward, navigating the narrow aisle with practiced ease. "Sir," she said, pitching her voice to be heard over the ambient noise. "Sir, can I help you with that?" The old man didn't seem to hear her. He continued struggling with his bag, his weathered hands gripping the handle as he made another attempt to lift it. "Sir?" Lily tried again, a bit louder this time. Still no response. She tapped him gently on the shoulder and he turned, startled. His pale blue eyes, magnified by thick glasses, blinked at her in confusion. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice soft and slightly quavering. "I didn't hear you." "It's okay," Lily replied, reaching for his bag. "Let me help you with that. Would you mind taking your seat so other passengers can get by?" "Oh, of course," he said, but he didn't move right away. Instead, he began patting his pockets. "I just need to find my boarding pass to check my seat number again." The line behind them had grown, and Lily could feel the collective impatience radiating from the waiting passengers. The airplane's air conditioning system seemed to be working at half capacity, making the cabin uncomfortably warm. "Sir, please," she said, her voice taking on an edge she hadn't intended. "You need to sit down. We have other passengers trying to board." The old man looked up, seeming to notice the line for the first time. "I'm sorry," he repeated, fumbling with his pocket. "My hearing isn't what it used to be, and I get a bit confused sometimes." He pulled out a crumpled boarding pass. 14A window seat. "Yes, right there," Lily pointed. "Please take your seat and I'll help with your bag." But the man still hesitated, seemingly disoriented by the commotion around him. A baby started crying somewhere toward the back of the plane, adding to the cacophony. The businessman behind them cleared his throat loudly. "Some of us have connections to make," he muttered. Just loud enough to be heard. Lily felt a flash of irritation. At the businessman, at the crying baby, at the stuffy cabin, at the old man who couldn't seem to follow a simple instruction, and mostly at herself for letting it all get to her. She knew better. She was trained better. "Sir?" she said, her tone sharper now. the strain of the past week finally bleeding through her professional veneer. "You need to move to your seat now." The old man flinched slightly at her tone, and something like hurt flickered across his face. He nodded silently and began to shuffle toward his seat, his movements even slower than before. Lily immediately regretted her tone, but there wasn't time to address it. She quickly stowed the man's bag in the overhead bin and continued helping other passengers, pushing the incident to the back of her mind as she focused on getting everyone seated as quickly as possible. She didn't notice the young woman in 15C who had witnessed the entire exchange, nor did she see the disapproving frown that crossed the woman's face. Lily was already moving on, checking other overhead bins, reminding passengers to stow smaller items under the seats in front of them, her mind half on the tasks at hand and half on tomorrow's doctor appointment. As the last of the passengers settled in, Lily made her way to the front of the plane for the pre-flight briefing. Her colleague Tanya was arranging safety demonstration equipment, while their senior flight attendant Hector was on the phone with the gate agent. "Everything okay?" Tanya asked, noticing Lily's tense expression. "Fine," Lily said shortly. "Just ready to get this flight over with." Hector hung up the phone and turned to them. "They're still loading some cargo. Should be about 7 more minutes before we push back." Lily nodded, taking the moment to duck into the tiny bathroom. She splashed some cold water on her face and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed like a stranger. Tired eyes, tight lips, tension in every line of her face. This wasn't her. She was the flight attendant who remembered regulars' names, who carried extra coloring books for children, who had once held an elderly woman's hand through severe turbulence because the woman was afraid of flying. "You're better than this," she told herself. "Don't let it get to you." When Lily emerged, she made a point of walking back to row 14. The old man was sitting quietly by the window, gazing out at the tarmac with a wistful expression. Up close, she noticed details she had missed before: the slight tremor in his hands that suggested Parkinson's, the hearing aid partially hidden by his wispy hair, the wedding ring that looked too loose on his thin finger. "Sir," she said, kneeling down beside his seat so they were at eye level, "I wanted to apologize for being short with you earlier. It's been a hectic day, but that's no excuse." The old man turned to her, surprise evident on his face. "Oh, no need to apologize, miss. I know I was holding things up." His voice was kind, with no trace of resentment. "My daughter always tells me I move too slow these days." Lily felt a pang of guilt. "You weren't doing anything wrong. We all move at our own pace." She offered him a genuine smile. "My name is Lily. If you need anything during the flight, please don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you, Lily. I'm Harold. Harold Thompson." He extended a hand, which she shook gently. "I'm heading to Chicago to see my new granddaughter. First time meeting her. She's 3 months old now." "Congratulations," Lily said warmly. "That's wonderful. First grandchild?" "Fourth, actually," Harold chuckled. "But everyone is a miracle, isn't that right?" Before Lily could respond, the captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing that they were preparing for departure. She gave Harold's shoulder a gentle pat and made her way back to her station for takeoff procedures. The safety demonstration went smoothly, and soon they were taxiing toward the runway. As Lily secured herself in her jump seat, she found herself thinking about Harold and his new granddaughter. Would she ever experience that kind of joy? The thought of her pending medical results cast a shadow over the question. The plane gained speed, pressing Lily back against her seat as they lifted off. Below them, Denver grew smaller, the city grid shrinking into a pattern of lights against the darkening landscape. No matter how many flights she worked, Lily never tired of this moment. The transition from earth to sky, the feeling of leaving one world for another. They reached cruising altitude and the seatbelt sign dinged off. Lily unbuckled and stood ready to begin drink service. As she pushed the beverage cart down the aisle, she found herself looking forward to reaching Harold's row, curious to hear more about his family. What she didn't know was that 7 minutes from now, an interaction with another passenger would change the course of the entire flight, and possibly her career. But for now, Lily Wong moved down the aisle, offering drinks and smiles, unaware that the real turbulence on this flight wouldn't come from the air outside, but from the gathering storm within the cabin. As Lily pushed the beverage cart down the narrow aisle, the plane hit a small pocket of turbulence. Ice cubes clinked against plastic cups and a few passengers gripped their armrests. Lily steadied the cart with practiced ease. Just a little bump in the road, she reassured the nervous-looking teenager beside her. The girl nodded gratefully, her knuckles slowly regaining their color as she released her death grip on the armrest. Lily continued her way down the aisle, serving drinks with mechanical efficiency. She'd done this thousands of times: smile, serve, move on. Yet today, her mind kept wandering back to the text from her mother and the doctor's appointment looming tomorrow. What if the test came back positive? What would that mean for her job, her apartment, her life plans? She was so lost in thought that she nearly bumped the cart into a passenger's elbow. "Sorry," she murmured, forcing herself to focus. By the time she reached row 14, Harold was dozing lightly, his head resting against the window. Lily decided not to wake him for beverages. The businessman who had been impatient during boarding was seated across the aisle in 14C. He barely looked up from his laptop as she offered him a drink. "Just water," he said, not bothering to remove his headphones. Lily placed a cup and a small napkin on his tray table and moved on. In row 15, a woman with curly auburn hair and sharp, observant eyes flagged Lily down. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying a hint of an accent Lily couldn't quite place. "I couldn't help noticing how you spoke to that elderly gentleman during boarding." Lily felt her face flush. "I've already apologized to him for being short," she said quietly, conscious of nearby passengers who might be listening. "Have you?" The woman, according to the book displayed on her tray table, her name was Diana Vega, raised an eyebrow. "Because from what I saw, you were incredibly rude to someone who clearly needed patience and assistance." The accusation stung, especially because Lily knew there was truth to it. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but I've addressed it with the passenger directly. Would you like something to drink?" Diana ignored the question. "You know, my father has Parkinson's. He struggles with simple tasks every day. People treat him like he's invisible or a nuisance." Her voice remained calm, but her eyes flashed with emotion. "It's dehumanizing," Lily swallowed hard. "I understand, and I truly am sorry for how I handled the situation. It won't happen again. Now, would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you," Diana said coolly, returning to her book. But Lily could feel the woman's eyes on her back as she moved the cart forward. By the time Lily reached the back of the plane, her hands were shaking slightly. Diana's words had hit a nerve. Had she really been that bad? The memory of Harold's hurt expression flashed through her mind, and shame washed over her anew. "You okay?" Tanya asked as they prepared for the second round of drink service. "You look upset." Lily shook her head. "I'm fine. Just tired." She wasn't ready to share what had happened, not even with Tanya, who was the closest thing she had to a friend on the crew. The flight continued without incident for the next 20 minutes. Lily was collecting trash when the call button for row 15 lit up. She took a deep breath before making her way back to Diana's seat. "How can I help you?" Lily asked, her professional smile firmly in place. "Actually, I wanted to apologize," Diana said, surprising Lily. "I was harsh earlier. I've been traveling for 2 days straight, and I took my frustration out on you." Lily blinked, caught off guard by the unexpected apology. "That's very kind of you to say. But," Diana continued, lowering her voice, "I still think that gentleman deserves better treatment. Look at him." Lily glanced over at Harold, who was now awake and attempting to retrieve something from his bag under the seat. He was struggling to bend down, his movements stiff and labored. "Excuse me," Lily said, moving to Harold's row. "Let me help you with that, sir." "What do you need?" "My medication," Harold explained, his voice slightly breathless from the effort. "It's in my small blue bag." Lily knelt down and easily retrieved the bag. "Here you are. Can I get you some water to take it with?" "That would be wonderful, thank you." Harold smiled gratefully. As Lily fetched a fresh cup of water, she noticed Diana watching the interaction with approval. Maybe she'd judged the woman too harshly. Maybe Diana had simply been standing up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves. Harold took his medication with shaking hands. "My doctor says I should be able to travel on my own for at least another year," he confided. "But days like today, I wonder." "You're doing just fine," Lily assured him. "And that's what we're here for, to help when needed." Harold's eyes crinkled with his smile. "You remind me of my granddaughter. Always kind, even to a slow old man." The comment warmed Lily's heart, temporarily pushing away her worries about tomorrow's appointment. She was about to return to her duties when the businessman across the aisle let out an exaggerated sigh. "If you're done with the special treatment, some of us would like more coffee." The words were spoken just loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear. A few awkward glances were exchanged, and Lily felt her face grow warm. "I'll be right with you, sir," she said, keeping her voice even. But as she turned to go, Diana spoke up. "Excuse me, did you just imply this gentleman doesn't deserve assistance?" The businessman looked up from his laptop, clearly annoyed at being challenged. "I implied nothing. I simply asked for coffee after waiting for 10 minutes. "It hasn't been 10 minutes, Diana countered. "And your tone was completely uncalled for." Other passengers were starting to take notice now. A young couple in row 16 exchanged glances. The teenager who had been nervous during turbulence was watching with wide eyes. "Ma'am, please," Lily said quietly to Diana. "I appreciate your concern, but I can handle this." Diana seemed ready to argue, but instead she pressed her lips together and nodded. Lily quickly fetched coffee for the businessman, who took it without a word of thanks. The tension in the air was palpable, and Lily felt caught in the middle of something that was rapidly spiraling beyond her control. As she made her way back to the galley, Lily noticed several passengers with their phones out. Were they recording? Her stomach dropped. The last thing she needed was to become some viral sensation, the flight attendant who couldn't keep the peace on a routine flight to Chicago. "Everything okay up there?" Hector asked as she returned to the galley. "You look stressed." "Just a minor disagreement between passengers," Lily said, trying to sound casual. "Nothing I can't handle." Hector gave her a searching look but didn't press the issue. "Well, we're starting our descent in about 20 minutes. Hopefully everyone behaves until then." But as Lily returned to the cabin for the pre-landing check, she could sense that something had shifted. Diana was typing furiously on her phone. The businessman had moved on from coffee to something stronger, judging by the mini whiskey bottle on his tray. And Harold sat quietly by the window, seemingly oblivious to the tension around him. Lily was checking seatbelts in row 12 when she overheard a snippet of conversation. "Did you see that video? The flight attendant was so rude to that poor old man." "Which video? Show me." Lily's heart began to race. "There was a video of her?" She fought to maintain her composure as she continued her checks, but her hands had gone cold and clammy. By the time she reached row 14, Diana was showing something on her phone to the passenger beside her. They both looked up guiltily when Lily approached. "Seatbacks and tray tables in their upright positions, please," Lily said, her voice sounding strained even to her own ears. Diana put her phone away but fixed Lily with a challenging stare. "I've shared what happened during boarding with a few friends. One of them works for passenger advocacy." She's very interested. The implication was clear. This wasn't going away. Lily felt sick. "I understand you're upset, but recording crew members without consent is against airline policy." "I didn't record anything," Diana said smoothly. "But several other passengers did. It's already making the rounds online." Lily wanted to argue, to defend herself, to explain that she'd had a moment of impatience that she'd already apologized for, but now wasn't the time or place. She had a job to finish. She continued down the aisle, checking seatbelts and tray tables with robotic precision, all while trying to ignore the whispers and glances that followed her. Was this really happening? Over such a small incident? When she reached the back of the plane, Tanya pulled her aside. "What's going on? Everyone's acting weird, and Hector just got a call from the captain." "I don't know." Lily lied, not ready to admit how badly she'd messed up. Maybe they're just eager to land. The descent into Chicago was smooth, but for Lily, every minute felt like an hour. Her mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Would she be reported? Suspended? Fired? All because of one impatient moment with an elderly passenger. A moment she'd already tried to make right? As the plane touched down and taxied toward the gate, Lily's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. Whatever it was, it could wait. Right now, she needed to focus on getting through the next 15 minutes with her dignity intact. The seatbelt sign dinged off, and passengers began the usual rush to retrieve their bags and exit, despite Hector's announcement to remain seated until the aircraft had come to a complete stop at the gate. Lily stood near the front exit, preparing to say goodbye to passengers as they deplaned. Harold was one of the last to gather his things, his movements careful and deliberate. Diana waited nearby, clearly intent on ensuring he wasn't rushed again. The businessman had already pushed his way to the front of the line, eager to be first off the plane. As Lily watched this scene unfold, her phone buzzed again. This time she glanced at it quickly. It was a message from the pilot, Captain Robert Chen. "See me in the cockpit before you deplane." Lily's blood ran cold. In her 3 years as a flight attendant, she had never been summoned to the cockpit after landing. This couldn't be good. As the last passengers filed toward the exit, Lily caught a glimpse of Harold and Diana deep in conversation. Harold was showing her pictures on his phone, probably of the granddaughter he was about to meet. Diana was smiling warmly, all traces of her earlier anger gone. If only Lily's problems could disappear so easily. With a sense of dread building in her chest, she turned and made her way toward the cockpit, wondering if the next few minutes would change the course of her career forever. Lily's footsteps felt heavy as she made her way to the cockpit. The narrow aisle that she'd navigated thousands of times now seemed like a long walk to judgment. Through the windows, she could see ground crew moving around the plane, going about their routine as if her world wasn't about to collapse. She knocked on the cockpit door, 2 short raps that sounded unnaturally loud in the now empty cabin. "Come in," came Captain Chen's voice. Lily stepped inside, where Captain Chen and First Officer Reyes were completing their post-flight checklist. The cockpit always felt like another world, compact, filled with switches, screens, and dials, smelling of coffee and the particular blend of recycled air unique to airplane cockpits. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" Lily's voice came out steadier than she expected. Captain Chen finished noting something on his tablet before looking up. In his mid-50s with salt and pepper hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had faced every possible scenario in the skies, he rarely showed strong emotion. Today was different. His brow was furrowed. His mouth set in a grim line. "Sit down, Lily," he said, gesturing to the jump seat behind him. Lily sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap to hide their trembling. "I've received some concerning reports about an incident during boarding," Captain Chen began. "Apparently there's video circulating on social media showing you being, how did the report phrase it? Verbally aggressive toward an elderly passenger." Lily felt her face grow hot. "Sir, I can explain. I had a moment of impatience with a passenger who was taking a long time to board, but I apologized to him afterward. We actually had a nice conversation during the flight." He understood. Captain Chen held up a hand. "I'm sure there's more to the story than what's in a 10-second video clip." "There always is, but that's not the only issue." First Officer Reyes, a younger man with kind eyes that now looked troubled, spoke up. "There was also an altercation with another passenger, a woman in row 15. "Not an altercation," Lily corrected quickly. "She confronted me about how I spoke to Mr. Thompson, the elderly passenger. She was passionate about it, but I tried to de-escalate the situation. According to several witness statements, this passenger, Diana Vega, claimed you were displaying a pattern of disrespect toward vulnerable passengers," Captain Chen said, reading from his tablet, "and that when confronted you were dismissive of her concerns." "That's not true," Lily protested, feeling panic rise in her chest. "I acknowledged her concerns. I even helped Mr. Thompson afterward when he needed his medication. Ms. Vega saw that. She seemed satisfied. Until the businessman got involved," First Officer Reyes added. Lily nodded miserably. "He made a comment about special treatment. Ms. Vega took offense and things escalated. But I tried to keep the peace. I really did," Captain Chen sighed, putting down his tablet. "Lily, I've flown with you many times. You're normally one of our best, professional, compassionate, good under pressure, which is why this report is so surprising. I know I messed up during boarding," Lily admitted, her voice small. "I've been distracted lately. Personal issues. But that's no excuse." For a moment, the only sound in the cockpit was the occasional crackle of the radio and the distant thrum of the auxiliary power unit. Captain Chen studied her face as if trying to read something there. "The company has a zero-tolerance policy for customer mistreatment," he finally said, "especially when it involves elderly or disabled passengers." Lily's stomach dropped. Here it came, the suspension, maybe even termination. 3 years of building her career, gone because of one bad day. "However," Captain Chen continued, "company policy also requires a thorough investigation before any disciplinary action is taken. Both sides of the story need to be heard." A tiny flicker of hope sparked in Lily's chest. That said, I can't ignore the reports, especially with the social media attention. Ms. Vega has apparently posted about the incident, and it's gaining traction. First Officer Reyes leaned forward. What Captain Chen is trying to say is that we need to follow protocol here. You'll need to remain in Chicago while the airline conducts its investigation. Am I suspended? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Let's call it administrative leave, Captain Chen said, his tone softening slightly, with pay pending investigation. You won't be on the return flight to Denver this evening. The news hit Lily like a physical blow. She wouldn't be going home tonight, wouldn't be able to make her doctor's appointment tomorrow. Everything was spiraling out of control. I understand, she managed to say, though she felt like she might be sick. Hector will take over your duties for the return flight, Captain Chen continued. You'll need to check into the crew hotel and wait for HR to contact you. They'll want your statement about what happened. Lily nodded numbly. For what it's worth, First Officer Reyes added, we've requested that they review the entire incident, not just the viral clip. That includes security footage from boarding and witness statements from all involved passengers. Not just Ms. Vega. Thank you, Lily said. Genuinely grateful for this small mercy. Captain Chen handed her a form. I need you to sign this, acknowledging that you've been informed of the situation and the next steps. As Lily took the pen with trembling fingers, a knock came at the cockpit door. First Officer Reyes opened it to reveal Hector, looking uncomfortable. Sorry to interrupt, Captain, but there's a situation in the jetway. The elderly passenger from 14A is refusing to leave until he speaks with you. Says it's urgent. Captain Chen frowned. Mr. Thompson wants to see me? Yes, sir. And he's not alone. That woman from 15C is with him, along with about a dozen other passengers. They're all insisting on speaking with you before they'll proceed to the terminal. Lily's heart sank further. Was this some kind of passenger revolt? Had Ms. Vega organized a group to formally complain about her? Captain Chen sighed. All right, I'll speak with them. He turned to Lily. Wait here. This apparently involves you, but let me handle it first. Lily sat frozen in the jump seat as Captain Chen left the cockpit. First Officer Reyes gave her a sympathetic look before following him, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. The minutes crawled by like hours. Lily's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Doctor called. They can fit you in earlier if you can make it by 5 p.m. today. Lily closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She wouldn't be making that appointment either. After what seemed like an eternity, the cockpit door opened again. Captain Chen returned, his expression unreadable. You need to come with me, he said simply. Lily rose on shaky legs, following him out of the cockpit and toward the aircraft door. She could hear voices in the jetway, many voices, some raised, others calm but firm. As she stepped into the jetway, Lily was stunned by the sight that greeted her. At least 15 passengers had formed a sort of impromptu gathering. Harold Thompson stood at the center, leaning slightly on his cane but looking remarkably determined for a man his age. Beside him was Diana Vega, who, to Lily's shock, had her arm protectively around the older man's shoulders. There she is, someone said, and all eyes turned to Lily. She wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor of the jetway and vanish. But Captain Chen placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Mr. Thompson, he said, you wanted to speak with me about Ms. Wong? Harold stepped forward, his pale blue eyes finding Lily's. Yes, I did. This young lady, he gestured to Diana, showed me a video that's apparently causing quite a stir online. A video of this flight attendant allegedly being rude to me during boarding. Lily held her breath. I want to make it absolutely clear, Harold continued, his voice stronger than Lily had heard it before, that while there was a brief moment of miscommunication during boarding, Ms. Wong apologized to me promptly and was nothing but kind and attentive for the remainder of the flight. Murmurs of agreement rose from several passengers. I'm an old man, Harold said with a self-deprecating smile. I move slowly. I get confused easily. I'm hard of hearing. I'm aware that I can be frustrating to deal with. My own children tell me so regularly. But Ms. Wong treated me with dignity and respect. Diana stepped forward. Captain, I need to admit something. I was the one who first confronted Ms. Wong about her interaction with Mr. Thompson. I was also the one who mentioned it to another passenger, who then posted about it online. She looked genuinely remorseful. I acted hastily, based on a single moment I witnessed without context. After speaking with Mr. Thompson and seeing how Ms. Wong helped him during the flight, I realize I was wrong. I've already posted a clarification online, but the damage may be done. Lily stared in disbelief. Was this really happening? A young man with glasses spoke up. I was in row 16. I saw the whole thing. That businessman was the real problem. He was rude to everyone, including your flight attendant. He kept making these loud sighing noises whenever the service didn't move fast enough for him, added a woman in a business suit. Very unprofessional behavior. One by one, passengers voiced their support for Lily. Some had witnessed her helping Harold with his medication. Others had observed her calm handling of the businessman's complaints. A few admitted they'd initially believed the worst based on Diana's comments, but had changed their minds after seeing Lily's actions throughout the flight. Captain Chen listened to everyone, his expression gradually softening. Finally, he held up his hands to quiet the group. I appreciate all of you taking the time to share your perspectives. This is certainly unusual. I've never had passengers stage what amounts to a character witness session in a jetway before. A ripple of laughter moved through the group, easing the tension. Mr. Thompson, Captain Chen continued, thank you for speaking up. It would have been easier to simply continue to your destination. Harold shook his head. When you get to my age, Captain, you learn that speaking up for what's right is never a waste of time. This young lady doesn't deserve to have her career tarnished because of one moment that was blown out of proportion. Captain Chen nodded thoughtfully, then turned to Diana. And Ms. Vega, I appreciate your honesty in admitting your role in this situation. Diana looked at Lily. I'm truly sorry. I thought I was standing up for someone who couldn't stand up for himself. I was wrong. Lily found her voice at last. Thank you, she said simply, unable to manage more through the lump in her throat. Captain Chen cleared his throat. Well, this certainly puts things in a different light. I'll need statements from anyone willing to provide them. For the official record. Several passengers immediately volunteered, including Harold and Diana. In the meantime, Captain Chen said, turning to Lily, I think we can revise our earlier decision. There's still need for an official review, but given these testimonials, I see no reason why you can't return to Denver on tonight's flight as scheduled. Relief washed over Lily like a wave. She could go home. She could make her doctor's appointment tomorrow. Perhaps everything wasn't falling apart after all. As the passengers finally began to disperse toward the terminal, Harold lingered behind. He approached Lily with a warm smile. Don't worry about this too much, my dear. Social media storms blow over quickly these days. There's always a new outrage to capture people's attention. Lily laughed despite herself. You seem very wise about social media for someone your age, Mr. Thompson. Harold's eyes twinkled. I may be old, but I have 4 grandchildren who keep me up to date. Speaking of which, I should get going. My daughter is waiting with my newest granddaughter. As he turned to leave, leaning slightly on his cane, Harold looked back over his shoulder. Remember, young lady, we all have bad days. The measure of a person isn't in never making mistakes. It's in how they make things right afterward. With those words, he walked slowly but steadily down the jetway, leaving Lily to ponder how a day that had started so terribly might just be turning around after all. The return flight to Denver was scheduled to depart in 3 hours, giving Lily some much-needed time to collect herself. She sat alone in a quiet corner of the crew lounge, nursing a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. Her phone buzzed periodically with notifications, mostly concerned messages from fellow flight attendants who had somehow already heard about the incident. News traveled fast in the airline world. Too fast. She hadn't responded to any of them yet. What would she say? False alarm, everyone. I almost lost my job today, but a group of passengers staged an impromptu defense on my behalf. It sounded unbelievable even to her, and she had lived through it. The door to the lounge swung open and Tanya walked in, spotting Lily immediately. Her expression was a mixture of concern and curiosity as she made her way over. There you are, Tanya said, sliding into the chair opposite Lily. I've been looking everywhere for you. The whole crew is talking about what happened in the jetway. Lily managed a weak smile. Word travels fast. Are you okay? Tanya asked, her voice softening. For a while there, it sounded like things were going sideways. They were, Lily admitted. If those passengers hadn't spoken up, she trailed off, not wanting to imagine the alternative. Tanya reached across the table and squeezed Lily's hand. I'm sorry I wasn't more help during the flight. I could tell something was bothering you, but I didn't push. It's not your fault, Lily said. I've been distracted lately. Anything you want to talk about? Lily hesitated. She hadn't told anyone about her health concerns, not even her closest friends at the airline. Saying it out loud would make it real. But after the day she'd had, keeping it bottled up seemed impossible. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, she said finally. They found something on a routine scan. They're not sure what it is yet, but Tanya's expression shifted from concern to alarm. Lily, why didn't you say something? You shouldn't even be working right now. I need the money, Lily said simply. If it's something serious, I'm going to need every penny I've saved. Besides, keeping busy helps me not think about it. Until it makes you snap at elderly passengers, Tanya pointed out gently. Lily winced. That's fair. Not my finest moment. Have you told your family? Just my mom. She's worried enough for the both of us. Lily sighed, running a hand through her hair. I didn't want to burden anyone else with it until I know for sure what I'm dealing with. Tanya shook her head. That's not how friendship works, you know. We're supposed to help carry each other's burdens, especially the scary ones. Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from HR. Subject line, Incident Report, Flight 2187. Her heart sank. They still want a statement, she explained to Tanya. Even with the passenger testimonials, there has to be an official review. Standard procedure, Tanya agreed. But with all those passengers backing you up, it should be a formality. I hope so, Lily said, but doubt crept into her voice. Social media could be vicious, and things often took on a life of their own online, regardless of the facts. As if reading her thoughts, Tanya pulled out her phone. Let's see how bad it is, she said, quickly typing something. Her eyebrows rose as she scrolled through the results. What? Lily asked, dreading the answer. See for yourself. Tanya handed over her phone. Lily looked down at the screen, expecting to see a viral video of her worst moment. Instead, she found a series of tweets from Diana Vega, complete with photos of her and Harold in the terminal. I made a mistake today, the first tweet read. I accused a flight attendant of mistreating an elderly passenger based on a brief interaction I witnessed. After speaking with the passenger himself and observing throughout the flight, I realized I was wrong. Harold Thompson wanted me to set the record straight. The next tweet showed Harold smiling broadly, holding what appeared to be a newborn baby. Harold made it to Chicago to meet his new granddaughter, Grace. He wanted everyone to know that despite some confusion during boarding, the flight crew, especially Lily W., were professional and helpful. The final tweet in the thread was the most surprising. In an age when we're quick to share outrage and slow to share resolution, let's try something different. This flight attendant doesn't deserve online harassment. I was wrong, I admitted it, and I hope others will share this correction as widely as the initial accusation. Lily stared at the phone, a lump forming in her throat. Diana had gone out of her way to make things right, not just in person, but publicly. She didn't have to do that, Lily said quietly. No, she didn't, Tanya agreed, but it looks like it's making a difference. The corrective posts are getting more engagement than the original complaint. Lily handed the phone back, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The day had been a roller coaster of emotions, but somehow things seemed to be trending upward. So, Tanya said, changing the subject, your appointment tomorrow. What time is it? Do you need someone to go with you? Lily was about to decline the offer when her phone buzzed yet again. This time it was a text from her mother. Dr. Wong called. Said he reviewed your scans again and is less concerned. Still wants to see you but says not to worry too much. Relief flooded through her, so intense that she felt lightheaded. It wasn't a definitive all clear, but it was something. A reason to hope. Good news? Tanya asked, noting Lily's expression. Maybe, Lily said cautiously. The doctor seems less worried after reviewing my scans again, Tanya beamed. See, the tide is turning. This morning's drama, now this. Things are looking up. Lily allowed herself a small smile. Maybe you're right. I know I'm right, Tanya said confidently. And I'm still going with you to that appointment tomorrow. No arguments. For once, Lily didn't feel like arguing. Having someone by her side suddenly seemed like exactly what she needed. The boarding process for the return flight to Denver went smoothly. Lily found herself being extra attentive to every passenger, especially those who might need additional assistance. The memory of her impatience with Harold was still fresh, a reminder of how easily stress could override compassion if she let it. As she helped a young mother settle in with her infant, Lily's phone vibrated in her pocket. Normally, she would ignore it until after takeoff, but something compelled her to check. It was an email notification from Harold Thompson. Surprised, Lily quickly opened it. The airline must have forwarded her contact information at his request. "Dear Ms. Wong," the message began, "I hope this finds you well. My daughter helped me send this email to thank you again for your kindness on today's flight. Despite our rocky start, you showed me the respect and dignity that all people deserve, regardless of age or ability. My granddaughter Grace says hello. Well, she would if she could talk. I've attached a photo of us. She's already bringing so much joy to our family." Lily scrolled down to see the same photo Diana had shared on Twitter, Harold beaming proudly while holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. "I also wanted you to know," the email continued, "that before I left the airport I made sure to speak with your airline's customer service desk. I filed a formal commendation for your professionalism and compassion. Too often, people only speak up when they have complaints. I believe in acknowledging the good as well." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. After everything that had happened today, this simple act of kindness felt overwhelming. "My late wife was a nurse for 40 years, Harold wrote. "She always said that how we treat people when we're stressed or tired reveals our true character. By that measure, you showed your true character today, not during that brief moment of frustration, but in everything you did afterward. Safe travels, and perhaps our paths will cross again someday. Sincerely, Harold Thompson." Lily read the message twice more before tucking her phone away, blinking back tears. The timing of Harold's email felt almost cosmic, a reminder that even on her worst days, connection and compassion were still possible. "Everything okay?" Captain Chen asked as Lily entered the cockpit for the pre-flight briefing. "Yes, sir," she said. And for the first time that day, she meant it. Everything's fine. The flight back to Denver was uneventful. No difficult passengers, no social media scandals, just the normal routine of drink service, snacks, and preparation for landing. Yet Lily found herself appreciating every moment in a way she hadn't for months. Each interaction with a passenger felt meaningful. Each small act of service a privilege rather than a chore. The worries about tomorrow's appointment hadn't disappeared, but they had receded to a manageable hum in the background rather than a deafening roar. As the plane began its descent into Denver, Lily found herself standing near the back galley, gazing out the small window at the sunset, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. The Rocky Mountains stood majestically on the horizon, their peaks catching the last golden rays of daylight. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Hector said, joining her by the window. "No matter how many times I see it, that view never gets old." "It really doesn't," Lily agreed. "Sometimes I forget to look." "We all do," Hector said. "This job can become so routine that we miss the wonder of it. The fact that we're literally flying through the air, crossing vast distances in hours, connecting people to their loved ones, their adventures, their lives." Lily nodded, thinking of Harold rushing to meet his new granddaughter, of Diana, who had admitted her mistake and made amends, of the dozen or so passengers who had stood up for a flight attendant they barely knew, simply because they believed it was right. "I heard about what happened in Chicago," Hector said carefully. "Are you doing okay?" "I am," Lily said, and she realized it was true. "It was a rough day, but illuminating." Hector smiled. "Those are often the most important kind." The captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing their final approach. Lily and Hector returned to their jump seats, buckling in for landing. As the wheels touched down on Denver soil, Lily felt a sense of homecoming that went beyond the physical return. Something had shifted within her today, a reminder of why she had become a flight attendant in the first place. Not just for the travel or the benefits, but for the human connections, however brief, that made the job meaningful. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. The doctor's appointment loomed with all its uncertainties, but Lily felt better equipped to face it now, surrounded by colleagues who cared, buoyed by the unexpected kindness of strangers. As passengers began to gather their belongings and file toward the exit, Lily took her position by the door, ready to bid them farewell. Each face that passed represented a story, a journey home, a business trip, a reunion, a new beginning. "Thank you for flying with us," she said warmly to each one. And she meant it with her whole heart. 3 weeks had passed since the Chicago flight. Autumn had fully embraced Denver, painting the city in fiery oranges and deep reds. Lily sat on a park bench near her apartment, watching fallen leaves dance across the path in the gentle breeze. She took a sip from her coffee cup, savoring the warmth that spread through her hands. Her phone chimed with a text from Tanya. "Flight schedule posted. We're paired for the Boston route next week," Lily smiled. Since the incident, Tanya had become more than just a colleague. She'd been a rock during the uncertainty of the past weeks. She'd sat in the waiting room during Lily's appointment, brought over soup when Lily caught a nasty cold afterward, and kept her spirits up while they awaited the final test results. And yesterday, those results had finally come. The growth was benign. Not cancer, just a harmless cyst that required no treatment beyond regular monitoring. The relief had been so overwhelming that Lily had sunk to the floor of her kitchen when the doctor called, tears streaming down her face as the weight of weeks of worry lifted from her shoulders. She texted Tanya back, "Great news. Looking forward to it. Coffee tomorrow before your flight?" Lily tucked her phone away and returned to people watching, one of her favorite off-duty activities. A young couple walked by hand in hand, laughing at some private joke. An old woman fed breadcrumbs to eager squirrels. A father taught his daughter how to ride a bike, running alongside her as she wobbled forward, her face a mixture of terror and determination. Ordinary moments in ordinary lives, yet each one felt precious to Lily in a way it hadn't before. Near brushes with disaster, whether professional or personal, had a way of sharpening one's appreciation for the everyday. Her phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a number she didn't recognize with a Chicago area code. "Hello?" she answered cautiously. "Is this Lily Wong?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, it is. Who's calling, please?" "This is Catherine Thompson, Harold's daughter. I hope you don't mind him giving me your number. He speaks so highly of you." Lily sat up straighter. "Not at all. How is Mr. Thompson doing, and how's little Grace?" Catherine chuckled. "Dad is doing well, and Grace is growing like a weed, already up 2 pounds since you met Dad on that flight. Which is actually why I'm calling." "Oh?" Lily couldn't imagine what connection there could be between Harold's granddaughter and herself. "My father showed me the tweets that woman Diana posted about what happened on your flight. How you were almost unfairly disciplined because of a misunderstanding." Lily winced at the memory. "It all worked out in the end. Your father was very kind to speak up for me." "That sounds like Dad," Catherine said warmly. "But here's the thing. I'm a producer for WCHI News here in Chicago. We've been running a segment called Second Look about how social media outrage often lacks context and how quick judgments can be harmful." Lily's grip tightened on her phone. "I'm not sure I understand." "We'd like to feature your story. You, Dad, and even Diana if she's willing. Not to rehash the negative parts, but to highlight how people came together, to correct a misconception, to show that social media can be used to make amends as well as accusations." Lily's first instinct was to refuse. The last thing she wanted was to relive that day, especially in such a public forum. But something made her hesitate. "Can I think about it?" she asked instead. "Of course," Catherine said. "Take all the time you need. Dad said you're one of the good ones, someone who deserves recognition rather than scorn. I trust his judgment." After they hung up, Lily sat with the idea, turning it over in her mind. Part of her wanted to leave the whole incident in the past. But another part wondered if there might be value in sharing what she'd learned. About compassion, about the danger of snap judgments, about how even the worst days could contain unexpected moments of grace. She decided to sleep on it. The following week found Lily in the Chicago airport once again, this time with a 4-hour layover before her connecting flight home. She'd finally agreed to Catherine's proposal, and today was the day of the interview. They'd be filming at the airport, in the very terminal where the incident had occurred. Nervousness fluttered in her stomach as she made her way to the meeting point. What if she froze on camera? What if viewers still judged her harshly despite the context? She spotted Harold first, sitting in a chair near gate C-17 looking much as he had that day, though perhaps a bit steadier. Beside him was a younger woman who had to be Catherine. They shared the same blue eyes and gentle smile, And there, unexpectedly, was Diana Vega, looking both professional and slightly anxious in a dark blazer. "Lily," Harold called out, his face lighting up as he spotted her. He rose to greet her, moving with purpose despite his cane. "So wonderful to see you again." Lily found herself wrapped in a warm hug before being introduced to Catherine. Diana hung back slightly as if uncertain of her welcome. "Thank you for coming," Lily said to her, extending a hand. "I know this can't be comfortable for you either." Diana took her hand, relief evident in her expression. "I owed you this much. When Catherine reached out, I couldn't say no." The next hour passed in a blur of microphones, lighting adjustments, and carefully phrased questions. Catherine was skilled at putting everyone at ease, gently guiding the conversation rather than forcing it. Harold spoke of his initial confusion during boarding, his appreciation for Lily's later kindness, and his determination to set the record straight. Diana talked candidly about her quick judgment and her realization that she had misunderstood the situation. "I thought I was defending someone vulnerable," she explained, "but I ended up potentially hurting someone else in the process." When it was Lily's turn, she found the words coming more easily than expected. She talked about the pressures of the job, her health scare, and how the incident had reminded her of why human connection mattered so much. "We're all just people trying to get through our days," she said. "Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we jump to conclusions. But what matters is what we do next, how we make it right." Catherine concluded the segment by asking each of them what they'd learned from the experience. "I learned that age doesn't have to mean invisibility," Harold said. "That standing up for what's right is ageless. I learned to look for the full story before making judgments," Diana added, "and that admitting when you're wrong is harder than being right, but more important." When it was Lily's turn, she thought carefully before answering. "I learned that our worst moments don't have to define us, that compassion works both ways, and that sometimes the most meaningful connections come from our most difficult days." After the cameras stopped rolling, the four of them sat together in the airport cafe, sharing stories and laughs as if they were old friends rather than strangers, brought together by circumstance. "So what's next for you?" Catherine asked Lily over coffee. "Still flying the friendly skies?" Lily nodded. "Yes, but with some changes. I've requested more regular routes, fewer red-eyes, and I'm taking an active role in our airline's passenger assistance program, helping train other flight attendants on working with elderly or disabled passengers." "That's wonderful," Harold beamed. "See? Something good came from our rocky start after all." "And you, Diana?" Lily asked. "Any big plans?" Diana smiled. "Actually, yes. That thread I posted about our experience went viral in a good way. It led to some conversations with a tech company that's developing tools to help people pause before posting potentially harmful content online. They've asked me to consult on the project. Social media with a conscience, Catherine mused. Now there's a concept. As their time together drew to a close, Lily felt a sense of completion that went beyond the interview. What had begun as a tense confrontation had transformed into something unexpectedly beautiful. A reminder that human stories rarely followed straight lines. "My flight's boarding soon," Diana said, checking her watch. "I should go." Hugs were exchanged along with promises to stay in touch. As Diana and Catherine headed toward different terminals, Harold lingered behind with Lily. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "my wife used to say that the true test of a journey isn't how smoothly it goes, but what you bring home from it." Lily smiled. "She sounds like a wise woman." "The wisest I've ever known," Harold agreed, his eyes misting slightly. "I think she would have liked you very much, Lily Wong." "I wish I could have met her," Lily said sincerely. Harold patted her hand. "In a way, you have. The best parts of the people we love stay with us, don't they? We carry them forward in how we treat others." As they said their goodbyes, Lily felt the truth of Harold's words resonating within her. We all carried invisible influences. The kindnesses shown to us, the lessons learned from our mistakes, the unexpected connections that changed our course. 6 months ago, if someone had told her that a moment of impatience would lead to one of the most meaningful experiences of her career, Lily would have laughed in disbelief. Yet here she was, forever changed by a series of events that had begun with 5 simple words. "Sir, you need to move." Life was funny that way. The moments that tested us most often contained the seeds of our greatest growth. The people who challenged us frequently became our most important teachers, and sometimes the journey that seemed to be going terribly wrong was actually taking us exactly where we needed to go. Lily watched as Harold made his way slowly toward the exit, where his daughter waited to drive him home. Despite his age and physical limitations, there was a dignity in his careful steps, a quiet strength that had nothing to do with speed or agility. Her own gait was calling. Another flight, another journey, another opportunity to bring compassion to the skies. Lily shouldered her bag and headed toward her future, carrying with her the lessons of that day in Chicago. That patience was a form of kindness, that understanding required looking beneath the surface, and that even in our most difficult moments, the possibility of connection remained, and sometimes that made all the difference.